Welcome to the High Ground podcast, and today we're going to do another franchise wars.
Way.
So this time we're going to be looking at X-Men Last Stand versus Dark Phoenix. Or in 13 years, they still couldn't actually get the Dark Phoenix story right. You could argue, and this is what we intend to do with this podcast.
Indeed, we shall.
So first thing, which one do you actually prefer?
Well, because it's like the rose tinted time, and it's the last one I remember going to see in the actual cinema. I think before Days of Future Past. Last Stand probably, just because I think they had longer to set it up with the first two. So you had like you were like on board with like Wolverine and Cyclops and Jean Grey's like Famke Janssen is Jean Grey. There's no other Jean Grey. And like she had the first two films to set her up as this like love interest between the two of them, so you sort of felt like you were in that as well, like going. I don't know, it's hard to, but I just don't think Sophie Turner had long enough to be Jean Grey. Like, it was one film and you thought, all right, okay, so this is happening, so it's obviously going to be Dark Phoenix next. Like you had the first two X-Men in the original trilogy, and they were great. Like they were like different stories, and it got the team together. And then when you lost her at the end of two, you're like, oh my god, no, I can't do this. So it gave you like the emotional impetus for the third one, and like you were feeling what Wolverine was feeling basically. So I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you say. X-Men Last Stand, for a start, it's been bugging me for a while because, and this is more to do with the way that the writers have took Last Stand and used it as it's like a bad word to them. So we're going to make snipes of it, and we're going to retcon with Days of Future Past, so we can get rid of Origins and Last Stand. And ultimately, when they do hit the Dark Phoenix, to say, oh, okay, so Brett Ratner didn't do it right, so Simon Kinberg is, and it fell flat on its ass by introducing elements we shouldn't. Completely agree with you as regards to Jean Grey the Phoenix. You take a secondary character in what I define as the single worst X-Men movie, Apocalypse, and you take the Mickey out of essentially out of Last Stand when they haven't come out and saying the third one is always worse. Yeah. Apocalypse, yes, in the First Class timeline, the new timeline, yeah, Apocalypse is the worst. So you get Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm characters. Storm in it a little bit more, but Cyclops and Jean Grey are supposed to care about the relationships.
Yeah.
And you can't, and then you introduce the space element into it and the alien element to it. In the 90s,
I really didn't like that. That whole like, oh, this cosmic force that's possessing you, it created all life in the universe. What? Where did that come from? Like, I think that's too much like MCU Marvel. Like the Infinity Stones are like all created at the start of the Big Bang, weren't they? Well, what, this was here as well? Like, what?
What annoyed me is that and this is what I would say, the infrastructure was if it was an MCU film, and you was to take characters that haven't been introduced yet that are Earthbound, and in the same film, 45-50 minutes into it, you introduce a supernatural space element, it would work because of the previous films.
Yeah.
If you're taking an element that's not been introduced at all into the series, then saying, oh, it's suddenly here, it didn't work. You could have took the same story, changed all the characters, and it would have worked as a part of the MCU.
Yeah.
It just didn't work here.
No.
If they took the time and did the Dark Phoenix trilogy and said, okay, we're going to establish the characters now because we've introduced them in Apocalypse, and do the Dark Phoenix trilogy.
Yeah.
Which would have made more sense because you got First Class, Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse as the First Class series. You could have done the third another trilogy, which would be the Dark Phoenix trilogy. Introduce the characters towards the end or at the start of the second one. Introduce the space element. Build that up so that the third element is the Dark Phoenix. Is the actual Dark Phoenix, and call it the Dark Phoenix saga. Have the characters, how you feel for them with the relationships in the previous two films. So when it does happen, like at the end of X2 with Famke's Jean Grey, you actually care for them and you care for all those characters. It just didn't work.
No.
In the run time that they had.
No, I mean it definitely felt like a reshoot movie, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of stuff where it felt like they were going in one direction and then it suddenly goes in another. It's just, and I think, like, how many times are they going to reintroduce Magneto as if it's the first time you ever saw him?
Yeah.
Like, I love it whenever Michael Fassbender's on the screen because he's a great Magneto. I love him. I think him and McAvoy, they're really good. They're good at like their past incarnations of the characters, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just. I mean, don't get me wrong. The action was really good in it. Some of the set pieces were really well done, like the train at the end and
It
the
reminded me
shuttle
too
at the
much
start.
of the when I saw the train and the visual styles. For me, sorry to interrupt, was
No,
too
okay.
much like when they did it in Days of Future Past. When I saw the train, I thought, oh, that's all I was going through my head was the bit where Magneto weaves the metal into the
Oh yeah.
into the the robots. I'm sorry, I'm very brain freeze.
Yeah.
The
Sentinels.
Sentinels.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
In Days of Future Past, that whole element had that vibe to it.
But like I was sort of going along with it at the beginning. I just don't think this is no disrespect to Sophie Turner because she's great in Game of Thrones, but I just don't think she has like the not the range, but like the I don't know. There wasn't enough time
No.
with her to wait for you to be like, oh, I kind of feel sorry for her. I mean, there was parts where I was kind of like, yeah, Magneto, kill her, please.
Yeah.
Like she's being bratty, but I also thought the whole spoilers killing off Mystique as well. You know, just so we change the character that gets killed this time.
I don't like turning her from one of the Brotherhood of Mutants to an X-Men, and it didn't work. And I thought that Magneto in the first one said about how she's using her powers to maintain this normal looking version of self, and the whole mutant and proud thing, it all been gone by this one. It's like saying so that we can save money on prosthetics.
Yeah, it's almost. I mean, it was basically a cameo, wasn't it?
Yeah,
essentially.
It's get the gang back together because they love working with each other. So yeah, they sign up for that.
Yeah.
You said about the reshoots, and this is the thing that really annoyed me in regards to the the Blu-ray release, is that the one thing that now that it's under the Mouse House is, and apparently they had to change stuff because it was so close to the way Captain Marvel was going.
Yeah.
Now you got an opportunity there. There would have been work prints and everything. Why didn't they release on Blu-ray as a big sell the original cut before it went into the extensive reshoots, which did hold its production back for a long time?
Yeah.
We don't even realise at one point I didn't think we'd ever get to see the movie because I thought they'd shelve it once the Disney buy-up had been finalised. But when they released it, they had an opportunity to put out there a version of the film. I mean, you look at what they did with the Dick Donner's Superman 2.
Blade Runner.
Yeah, you could release prints of the movie, and fans will lap it up. And the diminishing returns that you've had, you would get the secondary market for curiosity. So this is the thing that would get the people that turned off, but know the troubled history, going, well, I really want to see this print, because look at the Zack Snyder cut.
Snyder cut, yeah. I mean,
Justice League.
Studios seem to need to be sort of pestered to release these cuts now. Like I remember, every Ridley Scott DVD release would come with his footage that was excised. Like they released like a longer version of Gladiator, like a longer version of Kingdom of Heaven. Ridley Scott was always said he loves the DVD format because it gives you a chance to put stuff you couldn't use, that was on the cutting floor, back into the people who watched the film's hands. And studios seem allergic to even considering giving you another option. Like, yeah, it'd be really interesting to see the original cut of this, because the ending was changed as well.
Yeah.
It was supposed to take place in space. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Instead of just, in a...
He's going in an alternative timeline now,
Yeah.
which is separate from the MCU still with the X-Men. It would work. So if you have things that are blending into the Marvel universe, the MCU, nobody would actually go, oh, this is MCU now. They would just be going, everyone's smart enough, if you're watching these movies, to know that this is a separate entity
to
the MCU, because we're still waiting for the big when they announce it for the X-Men to actually join them up.
Yeah.
So you could do it without confusing the core audience of the X-Men, because I'm pretty certain that's obvious because of the receipts, that the audience of the MCU is not the same audience as the
Fox.
X-Men.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, some of it is you got crossovers like me, because you said you stopped going to the cinema to see them. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, it wasn't because I hated them or anything. It was just because they didn't seem to have enough. Like, we did a podcast about this actually, didn't we? Quite a while ago, about why I didn't go to see certain films, and yeah, I remember saying to you about, I just thought from the trailer, like, it looks okay, like it's inoffensive, but I don't know what the point is when it's already been scrapped and Fox has been bought, and watching it now, like, I kind of wish I did go to see it in cinema, because it's quite, the effects are really good, and then it's quite a sort of spectacle, like, sort of experience. All the X-Men films are good effects, but I don't know, it's a weird situation, isn't it? It's like a sort of, well, we've got to finish the storyline off, so let's just put it under the carpet afterwards. I mean, I don't know what it did money wise. I'm assuming.
I do. I'll go on to this, but I just want to say, so you are the audience that the X-Men, Fox Disney now wanted. I'm not the audience, because I have a loyalty to the X-Men brand.
Yeah.
In the movies, because if you could put out the biggest pile of rubbish, and I will be still paying for that ticket, because I do like the X-Men characters, and it all goes back to, for me, the first X-Men movie, which, after a break from reading comic books and enjoying comic books, is what brought me back into loving them. So it's been 20 years now. Last week of recording.
Started the whole thing off, didn't it?
It did.
Again.
And so I'll always have that loyalty to the movies and those movies and the characters. So I'm not the audience. They know they've got me. You're the audience. And it's and you said about the deleted scenes and stuff. There's two cuts of and it's one thing they did on with Fox, is that instead of doing what most do, like the Batman vs Superman, where you put the extended cut on with the theatrical, they actually waited about 6-7 months and lost sales, because they put out the road cut of Days of Future Past. So, which, because the other people who are going to buy it is the likes of me, who it's not much difference.
I still haven't seen it actually. I remember you saying
it's good, it's enjoyable.
Unless you knew, there's no point. Like,
but it works. But you have to actually know the original version. It's like I mean, this is no disrespect, because Martian is one of my favourite movies.
I was just thinking about that there.
But if you were to put, I don't know the difference between the Martian extended cut and the Martian the original, because all I watch is the extended cut, and there's nothing in the extended cut that makes me think. If you just ask me which bit would cut from the original, I'd be like, I don't know, because it all feels like such a fantastic movie. So I do not know. I haven't watched the theatrical cut of The Martian since I saw it in the cinema.
I never saw it in the cinema, so it was kind of like, that was the only version I saw. So it would be pointless for me to watch a shorter version now, if that makes any sense. Like, the same with what you said, like, if you were to go through the film with me, I wouldn't be able to pick out. I mean, I can do it with other Ridley Scott films. I mean, the extended version of Gladiator, you can clearly tell scenes that were added in afterwards that were cut for pacing reasons, because they don't follow the rest of the story. Whereas with The Martian, it's like one of those extended cuts that you'd swear, like, why was this even, like, why does this exist? Like, it should have been the original cut,
I think we're definitely saying, if you haven't seen The Martian, watch
The
Martian.
Yeah, it's great.
It's fun. And
Richard's still got it, hasn't he?
Oh, definitely. That film is loads. If you're interested, once the world opens itself up and you live in the Leicestershire area, Space Centre has Mark Watney's Ares 4 suit, which every time I go to Space Centre, I always make sure it's like, it could be because they do conventions there.
Yeah.
And every time I go, one of my first port of call is to get myself photographed with the Mark Watney suit, because
the Captain Blonde.
I love it. Yeah, because he is international waters as soon as he leaves the hub. I'm going to stop there because I don't want to spoil it for people. It is, yeah. You said, okay, I pulled up the budgets and everything for Brett Ratner's and Tom Kinberg's movies.
I'm assuming Last Stand made more.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Last Stand had a budget of $210 million.
Wow, that's quite high for the time.
Yeah. and its worldwide gross was 460 million. The budget for this is all in dollars. The budget for Dark Phoenix was 200 million. It raked in worldwide 252.
So not really much.
It bombed.
I read as well that originally they were even considering just putting it straight to streaming, and that the faffing around with doing that and then reorganising it to theatres lost them 120 million as well. So, you know, there's a potential extra $100 million they lost out on that.
You got this is the point before we're all in lockdown and now we're not lockdown. We will be coming out of lockdown, but how long it takes the cinemas, because we've got to wait to see how the US do.
Yeah.
Before, and you know, I wouldn't. Films like Dark Phoenix should have made its money. It's not like now where if they haven't opened the cinemas when New Mutants comes out,
yeah,
the option would be Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Because that way you get it out there, and
yeah, I was wondering what was happening with that.
It's due for release at the end of the end of August.
Is it still like? Is it its own continuity, or is it just a one-off? Or
it's a one-off at the end of
kind of like
Dark Phoenix.
Joker was.
Yeah,
not part of.
It's still part of the X-Men universe. And the thing is, and this goes back to why I'm not the audience for these movies. Well, I am the audience, but I'm not the audience that they want. The only thing I want is a copy of New Mutants on a physical copy, so I can stick it with my X-Men collection, so that I have the complete collection.
Yeah.
And it's like when now they release movies straight onto streaming, like your Netflix with Annihilation and The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I'd like to have those ones. I've got Annihilation. It took them about a year to actually have a physical copy, just so that I can stick it with my Coen brothers and you know. But having the Alex Garland's Annihilation, actually, I have Annihilation now. It is brilliant, and that's what I want with the likes of New Mutants. I'm hoping that if it doesn't go to cinemas, and it goes straight to streaming, that we are given the opportunity to be completists, which, like, you know, but yeah, it's. Let me just.
I mean, it's not awful. It's nowhere near as bad as Apocalypse, is it?
No.
It's not even on that sort of level. I mean, it's not even as bad as Origins. I don't think. I think that and Apocalypse are like the sort of gutter of the X-Men franchise, aren't they?
Origins, they blame on it being leaked. No, there was some dodgy special effects in it.
Oh, there's awful special effects.
Origins.
I mean, probably the only good thing about it is that it's got Hugh Jackman in it. You know, it's like Terminator 3 syndrome, isn't it?
Sabretooth.
Arnie was in it. Yeah. I do like Lee Schreiber as well.
He's spot on. They got that right. And the bit where they sew up the Merc with the mouth's mouth, they made absolutely no sense.
It's hilarious, isn't it, when you see that in Deadpool 2?
Yeah.
Oh, is it first one or second?
They take the Mickey out on both of them.
That and it's a Green Lantern thing as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's weird because like Deadpool's kind of X-Men as well, isn't it?
He is X-Men.
So where
different continuity,
is he going to fit into MCU at some point?
No. It'd be breaking the fourth wall and saying you're watching a comic book movie, and they're like the whole little universe is. It might work in one of the spin-offs.
Yeah,
when they go into a multiverse or something.
Because my sort of, I had an idea of myself, and then I thought, no, that's absolutely dog shit, Callum.
Yeah. Was
replacing the Stan Lee cameos with Deadpool cameos, but then I thought, if it's a serious film and you see Deadpool in the background, you're going to be like, yeah, no, maybe not.
I think that was if they would break the fourth wall with the MCU and take it out, it would ruin literally the legacy of Iron Man's legacy for a start, and Captain all those ones, and it would turn it from being serious to let's be all jokey, and you do need the jokey, but in the MCU,
because even the Stan Lee cameos, like, they're jokes, aren't they? Like they're like little Easter eggs to cheer us up, but they're not quite breaking the fourth wall. No. They're I think they're just below it, but it's like enough for that if you know what he's talking about or who he is, and that it's fine. But if you don't, then it also doesn't matter.
Look at Alfred Hitchcock did it all the time. He doesn't break the film,
no, he just walks past it.
Or
John Carpenter.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't break it. It goes with the thing, and I like the way that it worked in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where you find out that that Stanley's a watcher, so that's how he's in all the
Yeah, yeah.
timelines, and it also brings together the Spider-Man ones and everything. So
But if you
the
don't know
X-Men.
that, it still doesn't matter.
No,
Like you can still watch them all separately and be like, no, it's not. Like,
I
yeah,
still got more stories to tell,
yeah,
and it's just brilliant. But having Deadpool do it,
yeah,
you're
maybe.
going, it wouldn't work, and then you get kids asking, "Can I watch?" You know, that are too young for it, asking if they can watch them, and you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Yo, you're not watching this because."
That's the balance that studios need to find as well with fans. Oh, and some fans need to work on this as well. Is going, oh, I'd like to see that, but would it work? You know, like,
What, even if we wore yellow spandex,
yeah.
spandex.
What are you expecting, yellow spandex? No, but like, it's the same sort of thing with Last Jedi, wasn't it? Where like, it would have been so cool to see Luke going nuts at the end with his lightsaber and stuff, but did we really need it? No.
But that's not what the fanboys want.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's
That's what
that's kind of what happened here. I think a little bit, isn't it?
Now, as I say, I assume this is. I am assuming that if you're listening to this, you're not your standard fanboy. If you are, thank you for listening, and we do appreciate that
We
you're
do
actually listening to us,
indeed.
even if it is just to slag us off later for the thing. But it's that whole fanboy culture. And you can speak to if you speak to fanboys who see an element in a comic book movie and think that they're going to go, oh, for the next film they're going to go this way. I mean, look at that type of people that only that think because it's in the comic books it has to be in the movies.
Yeah, it's like gospel.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so we're going to go this way because we're going to do this, this, and this, and this.
Whereas, like you say, like your average viewer hasn't read those comics,
No.
or probably hasn't even heard of them. So
But-
you have to do it so as the adaptation rather than the source material. And I think this is a thing that a lot of adaptations suffer with. It's why something like Blade Runner is perfect, because you can know it's based on like a Stephen King, Philip K. Dick book, sorry, but it's not a slave to that material. Like it has the basic elements of it, but it's why Frankenstein's adapted so much, because the story itself is what carries the narrative, not like slavishly like adhering to the original. It's why the Kenneth Branagh one doesn't work for me, because it's too faithful. You know, like there's so many versions. It's probably the most. I would imagine it's the most filmed. Thing. Original work, because there's so many versions. It was one of the first ever films put on film as well. Like, so it's doing the same thing here, isn't it? Like, what do you take from the Dark Phoenix saga, and how do you adapt it without taking everything or without losing too much? And it's just hard. Even Last Stand suffers a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you don't know what to include or what to take away. Or
It was a combination of I think it was The Gift or something
right.
and Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I read the Dark Phoenix book, and it would work as a trilogy, but you could not. You'd have to be a trilogy.
Yeah,
and
you
you'd
can't
have
just
to.
cram it.
You'd still have to scratch out stuff. I mean, one of my favorite X-Men movies is the Japanese story that became the Wolverine.
Oh, the Wolverine, yeah.
And it's got some elements that are the same as the comic book.
Yeah.
The Wolverine is I love that film, and I love the taking away of his powers and everything. But the comic book differs so much. It's like as well as V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
Brilliant film. And I've said this before. When you look at Alan Moore, if I had the choice of either adapting The Watchmen or V for Vendetta, which would be easier, I'd say The Watchmen would be easier, because when I read the comic book, it's completely different from the movie. So it doesn't take away from your enjoyment. But the fanboys, a certain element of the fanboys, have to have A to B to C. It has to be
Or
directly.
it's not that. Yeah.
It's not.
I mean, I actually prefer the film of Watchmen to the. I think the original graphic novel is so cold and dark, and like you don't feel good after reading it. Whereas I actually, as well as like having a message, and it is still quite dark. I think the film is much more enjoyable as a sort of as a media. I can watch the film again and again and again, and it doesn't feel like it's runtime. I think a lot of people I know when it first came out said that was their complaint, like, oh, it's too long. And I thought, well, it doesn't feel like it, and to me, when a film doesn't feel long, that's a good thing.
It's the Citizen Kane of comic book movies.
Yeah.
So if I try to explain that to people,
It is, yeah.
It's like text that you're not supposed to, you kind of have to watch
You're
it,
not
of
supposed
course,
to
but you know you don't,
understand.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's always been one of those. And
Whereas I thought V for Vendetta was more of a simple adaptation. They just took the basic roots and made an action. But it's still a good film.
I had
Still
a
a great
brilliant
film,
film.
but it's a more simpler adaptation, I think.
Yeah, it's second. Yeah.
There is a link to X-Men from Watchmen, actually. Don't know if you can figure it
Ooh.
out. Quiz time.
X-Men to Watchmen.
Yeah. It's not immediately obvious.
I'm trying to think of who the casting is.
It's more to do with other crew than the cast.
Same production house.
No, it's
producers?
basically one of the guys who wrote the original script for Watchmen is a guy called David Hayter.
Yeah.
And he wrote the script for X-Men and X-Men 2. And it was the only script that Alan Moore ever read and said, that's Watchmen. Incidentally, they didn't use it for the film, but he is credited. And he's also, if you're a video game fan, he's the voice of Solid Snake.
Oh.
but I mean, it's just, I think X-Men and Watchmen are quite similar, really, aren't they? Like about the outcasts and the freaks in quote marks. So I always wanted to see a crossover. That would be quite cool.
Oh, that would.
But that's just a pipe dream, I think.
No, yeah. Until no, I can't see Warner Brothers getting bought out.
No, I can't.
I
It would
can't.
be nice because I'd like to see some good DC films for a change.
Oh,
I think their animated films are all
yeah.
they're spectacular, aren't they?
Oh, I do. I mean, you said, got a link to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Rebecca Romaine, Lois Lane in The Death of Superman and Reign of the Superman.
Ah.
Rosario Dawson, who's in the Marvel TV series, she's Wonder Woman.
Yeah, she's in
Nurse.
Daredevil.
Yeah,
isn't she?
Daredevil,
Yeah.
all those ones. And what I was watching the other day, which was Sin City.
Oh, yeah.
I like Rosario,
Yeah,
but why, we're supposed to talk about X-Men, not
Yeah,
how,
sorry, that was
not
my
how hot Rosario is. I like Rosario Dawson. I think she's cool. I'm
She
just going to
is,
leave
yeah.
that there. That
I think we've sort of touched more on Dark Phoenix so far, haven't we?
yeah,
So,
Last Stand.
yeah, Last Stand.
You know what? It came out in 2006, right? You got 3 films came out that year, which were for me, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest,
Yeah.
Superman Returns,
Oh God.
and X-Men Last Stand. Now, I remember at the time thinking Superman Returns is going to be
Yeah.
there.
Because Bryan Singer's doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only that, we've got James Marsden, we've got John Williams music, we've basically got the X-Men lot coming, the ones that Bryan Singer's collaborators,
Yeah.
and they're all coming over and it's been given the blessing of the Donnas, and it's going to be like a sequel to Superman 2.
Yeah.
And wrong.
Yeah. Ironic, isn't it? And I feel kind of sad because I feel like we got cheated out of 2 films now.
Yeah.
Because he messed up Returns and he left Last Stand to do that. And apparently he has said since that every time he watches Last Stand, he regrets that he wasn't there to.
But he's also the one that puts
save
that
it.
shitty remark into Apocalypse. The third
Yeah.
one always being worse, so he loses. I know you could argue now for what he's been accused of.
I
He
didn't
loses
know
a
he
lots of
actually did that.
points.
Did he do that?
He's been accused of it. He's never took the trial like the other ones.
No, the quote. Was that him?
It's got to be. He
Oh, I didn't
directed
know
it.
that.
It's-
Oh, yeah.
He'd have
he
had
said
final.
it.
He'd have had a
Yeah,
final
I
say
forgot
on it.
he directed that,
He'd have had. I am just gonna double check.
Even if it's not even a dig at himself because he didn't direct it. You could understand if it was kind of like
one of his films.
self-deprecating, like humour,
But why actually put that remark in it? So that annoyed me. But yeah, come back to Bryan Singer, and it was writer Simon Kinberg who directed who directed Phoenix.
and for some reason Apocalypse has a higher rating on IMDb than Dark Phoenix.
Oh god! But yeah. In the end, I think Pirates 2 overperformed. Superman Returns was lost because like I said, that went wrong on so many levels, which we'll have to podcast.
We will.
But Last Stand, I thought was a really enjoyable film, considering
I did, yeah.
Considering that Matthew Vaughn was attached to the original director, so Brett Ratner had a script that was set. He had the likes of Vinnie Jones already cast because James Marsden was going off, so everything was done around who they had, when they had it, and I always felt that influenced the story.
Yeah.
So if it feels a bit, and then it's like you got Halle Berry, who's apparently wanted. Don't quote me on this. Is what I heard. So who wanted some control? So you got
More
Storm.
money.
Yeah, Storm becomes like the central character. When then logically the leader of the X-Men, and this is something that really peeved me off as well about. No, actually it is, yeah, because if anything happened to Charles, the natural leader of the X-Men would have been the
Wolverine.
Beast.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
So Wolverine as well, but the Beast at that point, because he's an original X-Men. So having the reins going directly to Storm just didn't work for me.
No, not at all.
But even the lines that get derided, like "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch."
Yeah, it's still better than that one's always the worst.
Yeah,
and there's some really good performances as well, especially from like the two Knights of the Realm.
yeah,
Like when Xavier dies, like you still do get this. This is still Magneto's friend. Like as much as they're enemies, I like the fact that he's like a Thanos, isn't he? He's like a very sympathetic villain where you maybe don't agree with his methods, but you understand at least why he's doing what he's doing. And I do like that line later on where is it Pyro is just acting like an asshole and he's saying like, "Oh, I'm glad." I can't remember what he says, but
he's done more for
he's done more for
your rights than
you'll ever know. Like they might still be enemies, but I like that relation, and I kind of like the relationship that they had in Dark Phoenix as well, where at the end they sort of buried the hatchet, didn't they, after everything?
Yeah.
With the chess game as well.
And that's the thing, they were and are friends, and that friendship and the friendship of all the characters comes across rather than like Beast in Dark Phoenix about literally going out. We're going to go and kill Jean Grey because of what she's done.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was going out with Mystique. Was that addressed in the last film? I can't even remember.
I really hardly watched Apocalypse.
I honestly can't say I remember that even happening.
It was in the First Class. It was kind of like they had a relationship,
implied,
mutant and proud.
Yeah.
And again, so that I was really annoying. But you introduce Kelsey Grammer in Last Stand.
Yeah.
So he makes an appearance again because he's from Transformers, so it's only a small one in Days of Future Past. So he's been in one and a bit films, one and a teeny. We'll just say one and a blink and you miss it. And yet, when I see Beast, I think of Kelsey Grammer. I don't think of
Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
It's not disrespectful to him. It's just that Kelsey Grammer is more Beast to me.
Yeah.
And that's from the derided fucking X-Men, pardon my language, X-Men movie.
Yeah.
So Brett Ratner obviously did something right on that point. You've got when Raven Darkholme is Mystique gets shot with a cure.
Yeah.
She's got dark hair like the character in the comic book.
Yeah.
And she's a blonde. So what did they do with Jennifer Lawrence? So when she turns, she's just gonna have a naturally blonde hair.
Yeah, I'm that's quite sad, that moment as well, isn't it? Because Magneto is basically just
You were so beautiful.
You're one of us.
Yeah.
You're not one of us anymore, sort of thing. But yeah, I know, and like comparing the two scenes where Jean sort of explodes and like she kills Xavier in Last Stand and Mystique in Dark Phoenix. I think the Last Stand one's handled much better because, like, I don't know why, but part of me sort of knew it was going to happen, but I just didn't know when. Sort of, I knew one of the big guys was going to go out of it, and I think they just handled it with a lot more respect in Last Stand. It was kind of just like I've just killed Mystique. Sorry,
I'm not going to run off and I've got blood on my shirt.
Yeah, whose blood is that?
Yeah.
But it's just, I think they just handled it with a lot more respect in Last Stand. Like, because I mean, again, with Magneto, you can see like he's still pained by his death. Like, it's not something he wanted. It's just they're on opposite sides, aren't they?
And I like the Jean Grey's family. Rather than the thing where her dad in Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, basically just said screw her.
That was. There's no character development at all in Phoenix. It's nah.
I mean, there are. It's not that there's no throwaway characters in them. Last Stand. I mean, archangels.
Yeah.
What's the point in having him in it? I get the sense that there was an extra storyline going on there that was cut down.
that was Angel was just there for the because his dad was one that helped create the cure, and
Yeah.
so like, but even even the likes of Kitty Pryde. I mean, look at that Ellen Page now. Ellen Page who's going to appear in Umbrella Academy, who is in Umbrella Academy, which is really good. And you're having star power. I mean, you look they're all good actors in Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
but
so, like Evan Peters. I mean, if anyone watches American Horror Story, he's fantastic in that. Like playing different incarnations of the same, not the same character, but it's basically like the conceit with that show is that each season is completely different to the last one. It's like an anthology, but he's in each one, and I really like him like as Quicksilver as well. I must admit, I think he's better than Aaron Taylor Johnson. Is it?
he's more fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, because
Because you would have fun with that power, wouldn't you?
Oh, yes.
That's
so. Yeah, it's all right for me, because of emotional. Oh, sorry, I got a phone going. Keep them distracted while
technical difficulties.
Technical
guys.
difficulties. Hello. Sorry, I'm podcasting, and you're now on the podcast. I forgot. So we're doing it live. Say hello to the podcasters. I'll phone you when I'm finished. Okay, love you, bye. Hey, proving that we are doing this on one take. This, yes,
that was a live distraction.
Live distraction. I feel like Dara doing an audio commentary for a film when you see the phones going off in the films. So, yes, where were we? Me in trouble with the fiance. Stevie W. Last Stand.
That's the one.
Yeah. So.
No, we were just saying the cast were quite good in Dark Phoenix.
The good cast. I mean, come on, Oscar winners, but then again, we've also got Oscar winners in Last Stand. We've also got Famke Janssen in Last Stand. But
is Chris Claremont in both of those films?
Yeah,
I just realised.
Chris Claremont's the lawnmower man in. Classified as lawnmower man, yeah, but meeting Gene. And
I'm assuming he's in Dark Phoenix.
He's in Dark Phoenix. He is one of the people at the rally that walks past Charles, and he's in the audience. When he's in speech when he gets called away.
Oh, okay. So, and he's in Endgame as well, isn't he? Is he in Endgame? No.
Endgame.
No, maybe not.
No, he's in he's in Days of Future Past though, and then why?
Oh, Days of Future Past. Okay. I don't know why I thought Endgame
there. Endgame is, I think.
I know that it might be. I might be thinking the Russos are in it, aren't they?
Yeah, Russos are.
Yeah.
That well, definitely have to do all the comic book cameos in these movies.
God, we'll be there forever,
yeah, that'll be fun. But yeah, Ty Sheridan, who's absolutely brilliant in Ready Player One. So the cast is there, and like I said, if they've been given the opportunity, it's There's one point, so you can keep going on and on about the MCU, and if you look at the mutant containment unit from the train, the MCU taking out the X-Men, is that a metaphor for Disney buying up Fox?
It may very well be,
because it's not a coincidence that they would use. I got to every time I go into every time I say things like I was going to my what do you call it? This is Spinal Tap voice. He's an idiot, wasn't he? Yeah. So it's
even the scene where they come to, like Magneto's little utopia, and they say like, "Oh, we're not here for you. We're just when we don't want to like interrupt what you're doing. We just want Jean Grey." Yeah, is that Disney saying we don't want to like make this film rubbish just because we bought Fox?
But can you just tweak a few things and change a few things just so that you don't confuse us? And could you just maybe not gone into production of this?
It's a strange sort of situation, isn't it? It's like maybe it would have fared better just being released straight to Blu-ray. The sales alone for that might have been enough. I don't know, to recoup the budget. I don't know. I just think it's like a strange set of coincidences that just as they were getting ready to release the last part of that franchise, we just bought Fox. It's
So that's
just
been on the
I don't
cards
know.
for some
It
time. But
has, yeah.
you can't. You've got to keep going to production just in case it all falls
It
through.
doesn't, yeah.
So it's you have to have your slate there, and your release date's all. Yeah, I made some notes on the characters, and you sort of like Sophie Turner's Jean Grey. I think her performance was forced. She was way too young
Yeah.
to actually play the Phoenix.
Yeah.
The Phoenix character.
You can't unsee Sansa Stark either if you're a Game of Thrones fan as well.
I've never seen it yet, but I will.
I mean, there's a few other cast members in there where they do have the range to do other things, and I'm not saying she doesn't. I just think, yeah, like you said, she's too young, and there hasn't been enough build up to give you a relationship with that character.
Yeah.
So
You look at Rebecca Romijn's Mystique.
Yeah,
she was real badass.
She was cool.
The bit when she's in all, even in the third one when she's barely in it, she's still just her in body paint and the prosthetics that they put on her, and she still looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And when she's when and threatening to kill the people and everything and doing all this shit like that, you actually believe she's a complete badass. But
yeah, I think she feels kind of shoehorned in the First Class stuff, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know if that's in the comics that she was Xavier's friend first, but that never sat that well with me, to be honest. Even I mean, First Class is great, but I always kind of thought, well, that's a bit weird. I thought she was a bad guy, and I get that, like, not everyone's born a bad guy, but I don't know. You just always you always imagine her with Magneto, don't you?
And I got the impression that, again, because of going off the back of Hunger Games, which were around at the same time as First Class, and she made a name and she got Oscars, that they were like, pardon?
That's definitely what it is. I know what you're about to say.
It's like, there she is. We'll just change everything because we have Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
She'll bring the girls in and the young people in, and the guys that are way too old that think, oh, she's hot.
Yeah.
And so I thought that, but again, that's not Jennifer Lawrence. That is the scripting. So I don't actually, it really annoys me when people blame the actors.
Yeah,
it's not
doing what they're written down, aren't they?
Exactly.
Essentially.
It's like when people go on about Jake Lloyd. It's like he didn't write the script. Go back to George Lucas on that one.
Yeah.
And I've already discussed Beast. So and Cyclops. I mean, Ty Sheridan is good, but and people going about James Marsden being boring character in the X-Men movies, but James Marsden's a brilliant actor.
Yeah,
he's still better than.
You kind of miss him, don't you?
Yeah, but and I don't know if you go back, going slightly off subject. Oscar Isaac in Apocalypse.
Yeah, I mean, he's unrecognisable, isn't he? Thankfully.
But he's happy about it. It's like you look at Carl Urban. Where's a mask? Carl Urban, proud to be Judge Dredd. Oscar Isaac wears purple, and it's like, they can't pull it off. But
proud to be Ivan is.
Yeah. But you look at Thanos, big purple monster. People believe in.
Yeah.
Big purple monster. Nobody.
See, the difference is that the performance was there, and the writing was great as well. Like, I mean, even after Infinity War, like before that, you didn't really have a sense of who he was fully, which was good because then they had the whole of Infinity War to sort of show you who he was. And I always said, like, I think you did as well, like, you don't hate Thanos.
No.
You're just kind of like, I don't agree with what he's doing, but I see why he's doing it. And it's not. I mean, yeah, he is murdering people still. He's still committing genocide, but you kind of think, like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'm not trying to defend people who commit genocide, but
he actually says to Gamora, "Have you been back there?"
Yeah.
People, you wipe out half, so to save the other half.
Yeah. And I don't choose who that half is. He's not like singling people out, is he?
No, and it's everything is equal. So, and when at the end of Endgame, he just sits there and accepts his fate.
Yeah.
He is not the mad tyrant of the comic book. He is good villains as logical justification. And I always go back to the Brotherhood of Mutants.
Yeah, Magneto.
Your outlook on life depends on a lot of things, and especially what you witness. Magneto witnessed the atrocities of World War II, being Jewish, so him and persecution. So that all comes through,
Yeah,
and that's why you have. Whereas Charles grew up
quite
rich,
privileged. Yeah,
so you've got those two. So that's the differing ideologies. And the good villains are not the ones that are evil, because nobody sees themselves as being evil. They
no.
even the ones that are motivated by greed, they don't see themselves as evil.
No.
And
Well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
I mean, I never saw. I mean, Thanos is a villain, quote unquote. He's like, for the composition of the film's narrative, he's the villain, isn't he?
Yeah.
Of the piece. But you know, there are some points where you're kind of like, well, the Avengers are kind of dicks too. Like sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, like it's not clear cut, and that's what the MCU do so much better than everyone else, comic book wise. I mean, I think Thanos is kind of like a cosmic Two-Face, isn't he? You know, like because Two-Face is kind of like, I like the Aaron Eckhart version of Two-Face, because he's kind of like well, everything on this coin is what happens. Like, if it says to let you go, I'll let you go.
Yeah.
Like, and he is fair, even though he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of like mentality, I think, that the later DC films sort of can't do. Or they do, they just do dark too much, don't they? Like, it's
Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, let's do what Nolan did, but times 100.
And that's what annoys me is about this. I mean, is about the Zack Snyder's. I'm sure how much influence was he told, like how many studio notes. Because if you look at Sucker Punch, Watchmen, 300, you know, those are all
Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead. They're all stylized.
Yeah.
And he goes and does work. I think I've mentioned it before. To me, his Superman, Man of Steel, sorry, is and Batman vs Superman, basically is Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. It's a studio film.
Yeah.
So it's not the Superman version that I wanted as a fan of the character, because I would like to have seen a Zack Snyder color palette, a Zack Snyder style version.
Try saying that when you're pissed.
Yeah. So
no, I know what you mean though. Yeah, I mean, because I think Batman v Superman, that stylistically, that really does look like a Zack Snyder film. You know, like with especially like the scene where he fights Batman. It's just the darkness and the way the lights are done. It really reminds me of things like Sucker Punch and 300 and like things like that. And he is like stylistically, he's a fantastic director.
Yeah.
But I just it's this weird one, isn't it? It's the same with these two films. I think stylistically they're very similar, but I don't know. I just think Last Stand's always going to be the better one. I mean, it has problems. We're not saying it's perfect, but it seems like the most coherent one.
Yeah.
You know, like the one you can sort of get behind and say, well, there was a lead up to this. There wasn't really with this one, was there?
We just do we'll do I don't know the woman's name, the one that wrote 50 Shades.
Oh, E.L. James.
Yeah. We'll take her approach now to X-Men, because if you don't know, 50 Shades is Twilight fan fiction, but she was persuaded to change the name and release it as her own. Like, you take Dark Phoenix, but you strip it you change everything. Yeah, keep the same characters, but just change all the names, and then release it. It's a good bit of nonsense.
Yeah, it's like if they what was it? There's something else like that as well. If you take the name off, yeah, it's like Halloween 3.
Yeah.
I always think if you release that as a just a film called Season of the Witch, that's a good little horror film for you there.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like, yeah, you could probably take all the characters out, change their names, change the way they look, and then just be like, oh, it's quite similar to X-Men, but it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like you could do that, actually. I'm surprised there hasn't been a fan of that yet.
It would, because it would completely work on that. And like I said, I saw it in cinema twice, and it's not a bad movie. But it's not by a long shot. No. I mean, Apocalypse is a bad movie in my opinion. Yeah. And anytime there's not one part really in Dark Phoenix that took me out of the film. You know,
no.
If I'm sitting there, and you get to the point where they do it, and it's like, listen, I'm out of this film, and you can't get back in.
Like in Apocalypse.
Apocalypse took me out of the film, and I could, it could never recover from it.
No, well, I was quite invested in this all the way to the end. Like,
Yeah.
there wasn't anything that made me go, "Oh, I want to turn this off now."
I didn't have the emotion as I did with Last Stand or some of the other films.
Yeah.
For me, with Dark Phoenix, not Dark Phoenix, with Days of Future Past. And I was watching this clips the other day. You know when Logan wakes up in the future,
Yeah.
and you see him walking through the school, and you see going to the classrooms, and all the characters, and all you want is Cyclops and Jean Grey. And when you see Cyclops and Jean Grey, it's sort of like it really hits me, because he's corrected everything, and that's the happy ending.
Yeah.
And to me, it hit me when I was doing research for this, that I see there being two possible endings to the Fox X-Men. One is Logan. I would say Logan. You do Days of Future Past and Logan. Logan is the sad ending. But if you want to have them to end happily, you end it with Days of Future Past, because that's the happy ending. They all live happily ever after. Tacking on Dark Phoenix and Apocalypse made no sense.
No. Especially, I think Apocalypse, especially because I don't know. If anything, like Apocalypse is like the ultimate X-Men bad guys to me.
Yeah.
So why would that not be the last? It's just and something that really annoys me about the First Class continuity is no one ever seems any older.
No.
And like we jump from the first one's in the 60s, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then it goes to, I assume it's the 70s in Days of Future Past.
70s, yes, it is.
Then 80s in
90s.
Apocalypse.
80s, yes, sorry.
And then we're suddenly in the 90s, and no one looks any different. And
83 for Apocalypse. 83
right.
for Apocalypse, because come out Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. And then this is supposed to be set in 1992 or something.
Around that time,
which is a reference to when the animated series started.
Yeah.
I didn't realise. But then, when you compare it to the MCU film that's set in the 90s that came out the same year, Captain Marvel, it's not even, that's way better. And they used the time, and you don't really, you don't sort of realise that that's set in the 90s a lot of the time until you see things like the Blockbuster shop, and the soundtrack is very 90s, isn't it? But that's utilising that well, because Nick Fury looks different. He does look different. It's the 90s. Of course, he's younger. He's got 2 eyes as well. But it always annoyed me that no one ever ages in the First Class continuity. I just think, are they all immortal?
you look at we're going back pre-Iron Man now. For Captain Marvel, but the infrastructure and everything was there. That once you go back in time and you introduce the Flurkin, the Kree, Skrulls, all
get to see Coulson again.
Yeah, and everything works because you don't bat an eyelid that there's aliens in the 90s, because everything has been prepped for since Thor and Captain America.
Yeah,
and
even just at the end when her call sign on her plane.
Yeah,
is why they're called the Avengers.
Yeah,
you're just like, even now they're thinking of ways that they're not sort of it. A lot of films, like I call it the George Lucas syndrome, because the prequels where they're sort of trying to desperate to make it fit in with the original trilogy instead of just going along with it and just making the occasional reference. That's what the MCU does so well. Like with that being her call sign, like you didn't need to know that, and no one did know that before. But now you think, oh well, Nick Fury knew her before, so that's kind of cool, yeah.
The Avengers Initiative.
Instead of, why does everyone not recognise R2? It's not that sort of fluff.
I tell you what, the best thing the MCU did, and this was in the MCU Sony, is in Far From Home, is when you're introduced to J. Jonah Jameson at the end, and I was sitting in the audience and I was like, oh.
Because you were expecting some sort of cameo, weren't you?
Yeah, and when that happened, I was just like, well, it's J.K. Simmons.
Who else could play him?
Exactly. There was no, when everybody was going like, wow, like, to me, it was logic.
Yeah,
it was, and
you don't need a headcanon to say, well, how is he in this? And it doesn't matter. Like he's Jameson.
And Ben Mendelsohn at the end.
Oh yeah.
I was like, yes.
Even that from Captain Marvel, the whole using his acting reputation
Yeah.
as a plot device. You know, he always plays
Oh,
bad guys. Well, he's a good guy in this.
yeah.
You know, I that's fantastic. I love Ben Mendelsohn.
Oh, he's brilliant.
But yeah, no, I mean that's even just a couple of examples off the top of our heads as to why it's going to be a great thing that X-Men comes into the MCU. I cannot wait to see how they're going to do it.
I'm gonna go. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm
but
really looking forward to it.
I'm also
I'm looking forward to all the new things like Blade, X-Men, Fantastic Four. I want to see all the new stuff. Like is it the Ten Rings as well or something? There's like a martial arts one,
Yeah.
isn't there? Yeah, and the Eternals, and I'm really looking forward to it.
So yeah, it's and the thing is, Marvel, the MCU, that everything is there that they can actually do it so fluidly.
Of course,
I
yeah.
mean, they take characters nobody knows about,
Yeah.
and makes one of the biggest films in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, that's still my favorite of the lot, the first Guardians film, just because it's one of the ones where you can still sort of you can be invested 100% and sit back and go, this is just fun. This film, like, it's just Star Wars again, isn't it?
It is.
Like, it's the original like buzz of that, and yeah, like you say, and like I didn't know who they were. I'd heard of them. I couldn't have told you who each member was though. And then when you watch that, you know, sometimes I always think the B team guys, they don't have as much baggage going with them, so there's no expectations. Like Ant-Man as well. I didn't really know much about Ant-Man, and I love the Ant-Man films because they work as pure comedies.
Oh, brilliant! They are. You know, I always consider the Ant-Man films to be the ones nobody ever watches.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And but if you get it, it's like if Marvel were to announce or put onto Disney Plus,
yeah,
4-hour epic of Michael Pena sitting there
telling
the story of the
Yeah.
MCU.
Yeah,
like,
oh, that'd be
sign
great,
me up, and it's just Louis, his character Louis, sitting there.
Yeah,
As long as
backwards and forwards
yeah.
between characters. Yeah, that'd be. I'd
or
watch that.
or a comedy comedy series about the ex-cons.
Yeah.
I mean, you get characters that can sign up, but you cannot do it with
No.
the Fox X-Men characters, especially the new ones.
Yeah, I think there's always that undertone of seriousness to the X-Men, isn't there?
Yeah.
That the first three had like the humor as well. You know, like the Wolverine was funny, wasn't he? Because he was so grumpy and the "go fuck yourself" comment it was Days of Future Past, wasn't it?
It's
First Class. First Class, yeah. And there was actually an F-bomb in this as well, wasn't there? From Cyclops in Dark Phoenix, just as they're about to fight Magneto and as well. I was like, oh, they're allowed that.
I mean, the thing is, I have got such a soft spot for the X-Men movies.
Yeah, they're great.
Really
they are fantastic.
And you know, if I was to go comic book shop, if I was to get a choice of comic books, I would now gravitate. They'd be the ones I'd be gravitating towards, especially the Chris Claremont ones. As
what was he, 80s? Was he the 80s?
The ones 70s.
Oh, 70s.
80s.
Yeah.
And I am lucky I'll be able to pick up a few of the pocket books when I go Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
I like it. So
yeah, Forbidden Planet's expensive though, isn't it? Yeah. If you want a full trade paperback. But yeah, those pocket ones are quite cool. I'm looking at them right now on your shelf, but yeah, they look. I've never read them actually, but are they just smaller versions of the
compact versions of the one you pay £15-16 for? But they don't do much of them anymore. It's a problem.
No.
I mean, I read Dark Phoenix about 8 years ago when I was on holiday, and I've got some of that. I've got some on my shelves. I still have to read.
Yeah, I read comics on my Kindle now. I don't have the room for them anymore. But I mean, this would make me probably seek out the Phoenix Saga.
Yeah.
Because I mean, is it long or is it?
It's quite you can read it in a day.
Oh right.
For a few hours. I'm a slow reader. I'm a very slow reader. I am. I mean, I don't think we've been slating Dark Phoenix.
No. I actually I mean, I was going in sort of thinking, because of what I've heard, and you were kind of like joking, saying, like, "Don't blame me if you watch this film and it's crap." But like, I actually did like, I didn't look at my phone or, that's always my measure of a boring film. If I'm checking the time or looking at my phone or whatever. And no, I was quite invested, and the cast were good. The story wasn't awful. I mean, it did need expanded more, but yeah, it was. I mean, it's just that I think it's just Last Stand will always take precedence because we were sort of. I feel like it was weird, but we were there for that.
Yeah.
You know, like we'd followed that from the start. Like I remember going. I also remember going to see X-Men when it first came out and being like, "Wow, this is great." You know,
Yeah.
like, and it still is. It really holds up. After 20 years, it still holds up fantastically. But you had that backstory to lead you into it again. Like at the risk of sounding like a broken record, you were more invested in Jean Grey, and I think it worked a little better with Wolverine in it as well, didn't it?
But then again, you can't go and put Wolverine in this because the age difference between the two would be Twilight creepy.
Nothing's that creepy.
Oh, well, that was creepy. But I completely agree with everything you said. I mean, to me, I define the original 2000 Bryan Singer X-Men movie up there within the top 5, if not the top 2 comic book origin stories. I actually put that second. If we're talking just origin stories,
it's up there with Superman.
It is.
The '89 Batman, isn't it?
Yeah.
Iron Man.
Yeah, Iron Man. If you want a world creator, in terms of, X-Men did what the Avengers did, but in one movie by taking superheroes with different powers. The MCU, starting with Iron Man, took different comic book franchises within the same
created a universe,
and it's I mean, Jon Favreau's Iron Man. I consider, everyone goes about Joss Whedon, what he did with Avengers. I hold Jon Favreau to be the single most important person in terms of creativity of the MCU.
And maybe Star Wars.
Yeah.
Mandalorian was unreal, wasn't it? I mean,
and Dave Filoni, I hold Dave Filoni.
And Dave Filoni, yeah. But I mean, when it comes to Joss Whedon, I think Joss Whedon's never going to do better than Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That was always the show of, that was my show in the 90s. No one can write like the guy could then. Yeah. There was nothing on telly like that. Maybe the X-Files. But I think he's kind of... Avengers is great. I mean, don't get me wrong, he did a great job with that. And I kind of like Ultron as well a bit more than I did originally. But I think he's kind of not played out, but you immediately watch a Joss Whedon film and think, that's written by Joss Whedon or director. And that's not in a bad sense, but it's kind of getting to be that way, because the Justice League cut that he did, people are like, oh, I don't know the difference. And you watch it and you can tell the bits that he's done or written.
Yeah, I really wanted to see the Superman in the black suit from to seeing the Zack Snyder cut.
I mean, is that actually getting officially released?
It's getting on HBO Max.
It's not.
So I want to. All I know is HBO Max next year. It's going to basically do what they did with Artemis Fowl and Hamilton for Disney Plus, and that's going to be one of their big ones. And I really want a hard copy of Justice League.
Yeah. I mean, I still haven't seen the extended cut of Batman v Superman. I mean, I don't know if it's worth seeking out or.
I really can't tell the difference. It's a terrible film, so
it is bad. Yeah, I mean, that's probably like the original Dark Phoenix, isn't it? Where they crammed too many storylines into one film.
There's no Martha in this.
No, no, there isn't. No.
Again, that follows the same thing as I feel about the X-Men.
Yeah,
is I will go to the cinema and see a Superman film, no matter how bad it is, because
the loyalty to the character. Yeah.
And I've got to say the same. Not so much, but I will pay to see a Batman film.
Yeah,
because it's something.
Well, I think Robert Pattinson would be a great Batman. He's a great actor.
Oh yeah.
Like, don't just be like, we take the piss out of Twilight, but we're not taking the piss out of Robert Pattinson.
No,
he's a great actor.
I feel the same about. I always say the same about Zac Efron.
Yeah, he's just not had the. He's a great actor. I just don't think he's had the film where everyone's gone, Zac Efron's a great actor.
Although a lot of people will say Greatest Showman, but I did not like Greatest Showman, which also has Hugh Jackman.
Which also has Wolverine, yeah.
Yeah, I did not like that. I didn't like it.
I've not seen it, actually.
Too safe.
I don't know if it's like one of those everyone loves it, so I've avoided it a little bit, sort of. Because you went like that with Joker, didn't you?
I liked it, but when everybody started...
It was fantastic.
I got so annoyed with people. Everybody.
Yeah, but see, I got like that with the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no denying the Dark Knight is that it's. I think it's as close to perfect as you're going to get for Batman. Next to the Burton, but there was too many. I think people were just like I've said loads of times in this, and it's not therapy or anything like that. But people that used to give me hassle at school coming up to you finally and saying, "Oh, the Dark Knight's great. Have you? Yeah, all right. Well, you said Batman was gay back in the day, so what?" But
Yeah, it's
so that's
just,
more my hold-ups
yeah.
than the actual film.
I go Godfather Part 2, which is considered like about one of the greatest sequels ever made. You got Empire Strikes Back, which is defined as the
It's
greatest
the
sequel
best
ever made,
sequel, yeah.
and then you got Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So you can't and
You've hit that roof. You've hit that roof too
Yeah.
early, haven't you? Yeah, yeah.
So when you got Return of the Jedi and
Oh, as we like to call them, the third one.
yeah, the third ones, when you got they coming out, I like Dark Knight Rises.
I like Dark Knight Rises. I think when I first went to see it, I really didn't like it. I thought it had gone way too comic booky.
Yeah.
I perceived it that way, and then I watched it again recently. The best thing to do is try and watch all three as close to back as you can, and it really does work. Like it actually, I think it's great not seeing Batman for a lot of the film, because you don't see him for a lot of the film, do you? It's not till he sort of trains again and comes back, and again you've had those two films to be with that Batman and be like, yeah, go kick his ass. Like, and it's cool. I think there's still a few sort of shoved in bits, like Talia al Ghul's a bit. I thought there's too many characters in Night Rises. It's a bit like a Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Yeah.
Like, let's cram as many characters. But on second viewing, I did think it was a lot better. A lot better.
I've watched it a few times. It's one that I have digital, so I've watched it a few times, and I like it as a comic book movie. And
it is good, yeah.
What is Tom Hardy's deal with Christopher Nolan? Hey, you're in this film. Can you just put a mask
and
on?
Michael Caine as well.
We don't have you in a mask, okay? But I know we're going completely off subject. Next time anyone's watching Dark Knight, instead of focusing just on Heath Ledger, take a look at Christian Bale's performance, because Heath Ledger's only good because Christian.
Well.
Yeah,
and it's great for Two-Face, isn't he?
He's brilliant. A bit gruesome.
Yeah.
In the prosthetics, but Heath Ledger is only as good as he is, and I think he puts in a fantastic performance.
Fantastic, yeah.
But he's only as good because of the supporting cast.
But then, you know what kind of annoys me from The Dark Knight as well is that everyone who's played the Joker afterwards is just doing Heath Ledger now. And I kind of think, you know, like, there's so great incarnations of the Joker out there, like Jack Nicholson. Everyone forgets Jack. I've had so many people say to me, "Oh, he's just like a sort of piss-takey Joker." No, he's not. Yeah. Like, he's scary. He is fucking scary in that, because he's Jack Nicholson. It's like Jack Torrance with makeup on. But he's a great Joker as well, because Jack Nicholson's a fantastic actor. Whereas I think, and Mark Hamill, he's probably the best Joker. Like, and you don't even see his face. Yeah. Like, just the things he does with his... I mean, when you watch him doing the voice capture, it's creepy, because you think Mark Hamill shouldn't be laughing like that. But
he's Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, what have you done? Not my Joker, hashtag. But, and, you know, and I think everyone just sort of does Heath Ledger again. I mean, I can't fault Joaquin Phoenix. He deserved that Oscar, 100%, because that was fresh and different. But I know, we're kind of going on DC now.
We're going on DC.
You will inevitably draw parallels, though.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's so many trilogies and like ends of series that are, you know, like new incarnations. Like Justice League is probably the end of all that lot. Isn't it? I mean, they're doing Wonder Woman 84, aren't they? But
they'll keep churning them out. They'll keep churning them until they find the right.
I mean, is it still all part of the Flashpoint? Yeah. Is it still all part of the same? Like, is the Batman, is that supposed to be Ben Affleck's Batman younger, or...?
I don't know. I actually gotta keep...
No one knows.
I think we're lucky now that the X-Men movies are essentially going to be over after the Mutants. But because of the likes of multiverses, we can now start playing around.
I think that's how because I mean, how else would you explain mutants and vampires in the MCU?
Well, we'll introduce them, then we might be able to get some cameos somewhere down the line from not Deadpool, but if we play with the multiverse, you might actually be able to see him pop up in one of the more comedic stuff. And
we can see, like, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
I really want that. Please, cool. I want Tobey Maguire, and I also want Andrew Garfield.
There's another one, like, talking about different franchises in the same sort of thing. Different incarnations, sorry. I think Tobey Maguire's a fantastic Spider-Man. I don't get why everyone thinks... You know, I get he's a bit whiny, but, like, he's the only one before Tom Holland that I actually thought is the right age to play. Like, he looks like a teenager.
Yeah.
I know he wasn't, but he's always had like a young baby face, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Whereas I thought Andrew Garfield he was too polished and too clean.
Batman money.
Yeah, he was too clean.
Yeah.
Clean looking.
Yeah.
You know, and,
Not a geek.
no, and I think they finally have found the perfect Spider-Man because Tom Holland's he is that age.
Yeah.
And he does the quips and the, you know. But I always thought Tobey Maguire was a great Spider-Man.
He was, but everybody just remembers Spider-Man 3, which is
which is unfair.
Sam Raimi's
Again,
fault. Not
the
even
third
Sam
one.
Raimi's fault. That was the studio's fault.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, that's going to crop up at some point as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
In a franchise war.
I actually, I think that's going to be on the cards very soon because. Yeah. But I just want to. Can I just opt out of watching Spider-Man 3? It's a terrible movie.
But do you know? I think it is fixable with maybe as little as 2 edits.
Just cut out all the emo crap.
Yeah, or maybe 1. Yeah, and the whole being nasty to Mary Jane thing.
Yeah,
kind of
the kiss.
Yeah,
I didn't like that. That was my comedy.
Even
that was,
symbiote. What are they? Symbiont. Even symbiont Peter Parker. I thought, that's a bit too much.
It was the kiss on Gwen Stacy that took me out of the film.
Yeah, although I can't blame him because Bryce Dallas is.
So I was going to get back on track to end this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, which one do you prefer? Still Last Stand?
Yeah? I still prefer Last Stand, but then again, like I said, I do have a lot of bias, and
yeah, same. Yeah.
And my favourite James Bond. It's actually not a Bond girl, but one of my favourite James Bond characters and actresses or actors, whoever, is Xenia Onatopp. I like Famke Janssen. I think she's absolutely superb, and I just felt that after Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix were so far removed from X-Men, they didn't really feel.
No,
they were unnecessary.
No, it was tactical. It was tactical.
Yeah. So you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always more pleasantly surprised when I see a film that everyone else sort of has told me isn't very good, and then I see it and think, well, actually, that was okay. I didn't mind that. I could watch that again. I could watch it again. It's not that bad at all. But yeah, I definitely agree. The Last Stand had the setup, it had the actors, it had everything was sort of, it was already there. Whereas with this one, it's sort of been, I don't know, shoehorned in. It's shoehorned is the best way to describe the whole film, actually. But yeah, no, it's not terrible. I wouldn't recommend not seeing it. I'd give it probably about 6 out of 10. I don't think it's bad at all. I think
I'm going 4 because I'm going to say it's an average. It's to me, it's just below average, but it's not like something I couldn't watch again. And I have, and I will watch it again. It's
at all.
It's not like it's not like when we do Spider-Man, that's a podcast, which is going to be on the cards. Is Spider-Man 3 is the one I would. Yeah, whereas when it comes to Dark Phoenix, it's Apocalypse. Apocalypse is going to be Apocalypse is going to be my Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Or your Dark Fate.
Yeah,
yeah.
If we're gonna do that, Dark Fate versus Genesis, yeah, that'll be a nice easy one. Genesis is the better one.
There's no point really.
No, that's it. That's a little tag on. You Terminator, Dark Fate versus Genesis. It's Genesis. Okay.
We did a 1 second podcast.
We did a 1 second podcast. Yeah.
That's good. So you don't get your bang for your buck on this one.
Exactly. So I hope you've enjoyed Dark Fate versus Dark Phoenix versus Last Stand.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen, go watch them. If you haven't seen either of them, if you're intrigued to, just watch both of them. I don't know. It's not a waste of your time at all, is it?
God no. If you like X-Men, watch it. Don't be put off.
No.
So this has been the High Ground Podcast. I've been Stevie W.
And I have been Callum.
See you soon.
Goodbye.